Attention gun owners, a unanimous court ruling can now turn a wellness check into a doorway search. Last Friday, Patricia, 72 in Seattle, got a call claiming she owed $6,475. She didn't know it, but the caller said police could verify everything inside. Her stomach dropped because her safe was open after a cleaning day. She felt trapped, scared, and suddenly unsure what rights still protected her. Stop for 5 seconds. If you're not subscribed, you're gambling with your legal and financial future. The next update I post could change what happens at your front door, but you won't see it in time unless you're subscribed to this channel. Click subscribe now, then come right back, because this matters today. Two major Supreme Court decisions landed, and both were unanimous. One makes certain home entries easier when officers claim an emergency. The other blocks a massive lawsuit aimed at crushing lawful gun makers. Together, they create a strange mix of relief and risk for you. Your buying options may stay strong while your home privacy gets shakier. Here's the problem you need to understand in plain language. Your house is supposed to be your most protected space, but courts allow narrow exceptions when someone might need urgent help. The fight is always about how strong the proof must be, and that proof level just got clarified in a way you should notice. In the first decision, the court chose a single nationwide test. It focuses on what seems reasonable to an officer in that moment. It does not require ironclad facts the way some states demanded before. That lower bar can make a fast decision look lawful later, and that's why a simple call from a neighbor can snowball quickly. Picture a normal day when you're tired and ignoring your phone. A friend worries or a neighbor hears a thump, then calls 911. Officers arrive and decide the situation sounds urgent enough to act. They may enter to check safety, even without a judge's permission. If they see firearms in plain view, the encounter can shift instantly. This is where fear is normal, because the stakes feel personal. You can be responsible, careful, and still get pulled into chaos. The entry might be legal, even if nobody inside committed any crime. Then what you say, what they see, and what gets recorded matters. You don't want your safe ammo or paperwork becoming the center of attention. Here's what frustrates me about how this plays out in real life. The rule sounds reasonable until you imagine it used on you. A maybe emergency can become a forced entry before you understand why. Later, you're told it was all for safety, so you shouldn't complain. But rights don't exist only for calm days, they exist for messy ones. Now let's talk about the second unanimous decision, because it matters too. A foreign government tried to sue American gun companies for criminal violence. The claim was basically, your products caused our problem, so you pay. If that strategy worked, it could bankrupt lawful companies through endless lawsuits. The court shut that down, which helps keep lawful firearms on shelves. That's the hope side of the story, and you should feel it. When courts confirm lawful products can't be blamed for criminals' choices, markets stabilize. It makes it harder to attack your access through financial pressure and lawsuits. It also signals that common firearms ownership is not some fringe activity, but you still must protect your day-to-day rights at your own doorstep. So you've got a win in one hand and a warning in the other. The win protects lawful commerce and blocks a lawsuit designed to cripple supply. The warning affects how easily officers can enter when help is claimed. You can celebrate the win and still prepare for the warning. Preparation doesn't mean paranoia. It means you're not surprised when stress hits. Let me tell you about Patricia. She's 72 years old and lives in Seattle, Washington, near her daughter. She owns 2 handguns for home protection and 1 hunting rifle from her father. One afternoon, she missed calls during a nap after a rough medical appointment. A neighbor heard her dog barking and reported a possible emergency at her home. Within minutes, a patrol car rolled up and knocked hard on her door. Patricia woke up confused and scared, with her heart racing fast. She looked through the peephole and saw 2 officers and a supervisor. They said they needed to ensure she wasn't hurt inside the house. Patricia froze because her safe was open and gear was on the table. The supervisor said they had reasonable concern and couldn't wait longer. Patricia felt angry because she hadn't invited anyone into her home. She tried explaining she was fine, but her voice sounded shaky. They asked if anyone else was inside, and she hesitated by accident. That tiny pause changed the tone, and they stepped forward to enter. Inside, an officer spotted the rifle case and asked several sharp questions. Patricia felt blamed, even though she'd done nothing wrong. They asked where the ammunition was, and she pointed without thinking. A second officer started scanning rooms for other people, opening doors quickly. Patricia realized her privacy was gone and she couldn't pull it back. After 20 minutes, they left without charges, but she felt violated. She later paid $1,185 for a lawyer consult just to understand her exposure. Her biggest lesson was simple, and it's for you too. You can be innocent and still suffer a legal mess through a safety entry. Now she keeps everything secured before naps, and she texts neighbors when resting. Let me tell you about Thomas. He's 74 years old and lives in Denver, Colorado, after retiring from construction. He keeps a shotgun locked up and a small safe for documents. One evening, a scammer called saying Thomas was tied to a bank investigation. The caller demanded $9,190 and threatened to send police to collect evidence immediately. Thomas hung up, but the fear didn't leave his chest. He called his bank, waited on hold, and grew more anxious. Then his sister called, saying a sergeant phoned her looking for Thomas. That was fake too, but it made the threat feel real. Thomas started pacing, worrying his door would become a battle zone. An hour later, an actual officer arrived because someone reported a disturbance. A neighbor had heard Thomas shouting at the phone and called it in. Thomas opened the door, angry and embarrassed, and tried to explain everything quickly. The officer asked if Thomas was alone and whether any weapons were present. Thomas said yes to the weapons because he thought honesty would calm things down. The officer asked to step inside to make sure nobody else was there. Thomas felt trapped because refusing sounded like he was hiding something. He agreed, and the officer saw the document safe and asked what was inside. Thomas realized the scam had set a stage where normal questions felt like interrogation. He later learned that consent can remove protections you thought you still had. Thomas didn't lose his guns, but he lost peace for weeks afterward. He spent $640 on upgraded locks and a door camera for records. He also learned a script that kept him calm and respectful. Now he says, "I'm safe, nobody needs aid, and I don't consent to entry." That simple habit helped him feel in control again without creating a scene. Quick pause. What state are you watching from right now, and what county if you're comfortable? Laws and local policies can shift a lot, even between nearby counties. Your comment also helps this reach other gun owners who need it. Drop your state in the comments because I want to tailor future videos better. Let me tell you about Barbara. She's 69 years old and lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, near her church friends. She keeps a revolver for protection and stores it properly, always locked. Her adult son struggled with depression, and she worried about him often. One weekend, he sent a vague text, and she panicked and called for help. Officers arrived at her home first because the text came from her phone plan. Barbara felt shocked because she was the one asking for help. She explained the situation, but she was crying and couldn't speak clearly. An officer said they needed to check the home to ensure no self-harm. Barbara didn't think. She simply stepped aside because she wanted help quickly. Inside, they asked about firearms because they saw a holster on a shelf. Barbara felt judged, like she was guilty for being prepared. They asked if her son had access, and she said no, everything was locked. Then they asked to see the safe, just to confirm, and she felt pressured. She started to understand how quickly help can become verification in practice. Barbara's anger hit later, after the panic faded. She thought, "I asked for help, and now I'm treated like a risk." She worried her son's privacy had been exposed to strangers in uniform. She also worried her own rights had been traded away under emotional stress. That mix of guilt and frustration is common, and you shouldn't feel alone. Barbara's outcome was good, but it still cost her. She spent $1,840 on counseling and legal guidance for family planning. She also created a written emergency plan with phone numbers and instructions. Now she calls a crisis hotline first, unless there's immediate physical danger. And she keeps a note by the door, reminding her not to consent blindly. Let me tell you about William. He's 76 years old and lives in Jacksonville, Florida, in a quiet neighborhood. He collects historical firearms and keeps them locked with careful documentation. A storm knocked out power, and he used a generator late at night. A neighbor reported strange noises, and dispatch marked it as a possible emergency. 2 officers arrived and said they needed to check the house quickly. William was irritated and tired, and he opened the door wide. They said they smelled fuel and worried about carbon monoxide poisoning. William argued because he felt they were exaggerating to get inside. His anger escalated, and that emotional spike made everything worse. They entered to ensure safety, and one officer noticed a display case. William said, "Those are legal," but his tone sounded defensive and sharp. They asked about storage, permits, and whether any guns were loaded. William felt insulted, like lawful ownership was being treated as suspicious behavior. He later realized anger can be read as instability, even when you're right. William didn't get charged, but he got a warning from the fire marshal. He also got a wake-up call about how fast misunderstandings become official reports. He spent $3,210 on better ventilation and moved the display out of view. He now keeps a calm voice and says fewer words at the door. He learned that being correct doesn't always protect you in the moment. Real quick, if you're getting value from this, hit the like button right now. The algorithm pushes videos with strong like ratios to more people. That means more gun owners learn this before a bad night happens. It takes 2 seconds, and it genuinely helps spread practical safety knowledge. Now let's pull the bigger lesson from these stories. The new home entry standard is about what seems urgent to officers. The industry protection ruling is about stopping financial attacks on lawful companies. Both rulings affect you, but in different parts of your life. One hits your doorstep, and the other hits your ability to buy later. This makes me angry because the average person doesn't hear these updates. Most people learn after something goes wrong, not before it happens, and by then, the choices are limited and expensive. You might spend thousands on a lawyer just to understand what happened. You shouldn't have to learn your rights during the worst week of your life. Let's talk about how an emergency label can be created accidentally. It can start with a loud argument, a slammed door, or a missed call. It can start with a family member who means well but panics. It can start with a neighbor who dislikes you and wants leverage. And once the call is logged, you can't control how it's described. There's also a harsh truth about plain view and perception. If officers enter lawfully, anything obvious can become part of a report. That doesn't mean you did something illegal, but it creates extra questions. Questions create delays, delays create stress, and stress creates mistakes. Your goal is to reduce the chances of extra questions in the first place. Now for the hopeful part, because you're not powerless here. The court also showed it won't let outsiders bankrupt lawful companies easily. That helps keep normal options available for self-defense and sport. It also discourages copycat lawsuits that try to rewrite policy through money pressure. So you can take a breath, then focus on your personal risk management. Hope isn't pretending nothing bad can happen to you. Hope is knowing the pressure points and guarding them on purpose. You can improve how your home looks from the outside. You can plan what you'll say when you're surprised. And you can set up your storage so plain view never becomes a problem. A lot of gun owners think only criminals need to worry. That's wrong, because the process can punish regular people too. Even if nothing illegal happens, your time, stress, and money can get drained. You can miss work, lose sleep, and feel unsafe in your own home. That's why preparation is not political, it's practical and personal. You also need to understand the difference between help and investigation. Officers may arrive focused on aid, then shift when they see certain items. They may be trained to treat firearms as an added risk factor. That can change how they position themselves and how they speak to you. Your calm, short responses can keep things from escalating unnecessarily. The best time to plan your words is not during a knock. In the moment, your heart pounds and your brain goes foggy. You might overshare, argue, or say something that sounds suspicious by accident. Later, you'll replay it and wish you had a script. So let's build you a simple script and a simple home routine. Before the action steps, let me give you one more truth. The law can say one thing, but real life is messy. Your goal is to avoid drama, avoid consent traps, and avoid plain view problems. That doesn't mean you surrender rights. It means you use them wisely. You can be firm, polite, and quiet all at the same time. Think of someone who needs this information right now. Your parent, your cousin, your hunting buddy, or your neighbor down the street. Someone who could lose money or privacy without understanding these changes. Share this video with them immediately, even before you finish watching. Text the link now, because one conversation can prevent a disaster later. Now we're moving into empowerment, because you need a clear plan. I don't want you scared. I want you ready. You don't need fancy gear or a law degree to do this. You just need a few habits that reduce risk when stress hits. And you need to start this week, not someday, months from now. Here's exactly what you need to do. I'm giving you 5 steps, and each one is simple. You don't need to do everything today, but start with step 1 this week. Write these down or pause and replay, because details matter. Ready? Let's begin, and I'll keep it practical and clear. Step 1. Decide now what you will say if officers claim a wellness check. Practice one sentence. I'm safe, nobody needs aid, and I don't consent. Say it calmly, then stop talking, because extra words create extra confusion. If you need medical help, ask for it clearly, but keep your answers short. Do this before Friday because weekends are when most surprise calls happen. Step 2. Fix your plain view risk by creating a simple end-of-day routine. Before bed or naps, secure every firearm, magazine, and ammunition container. Don't leave cases, holsters, or cleaning gear visible through windows or open doors. If you live with others, set a household rule that storage happens immediately. This step can prevent hours of questions during an entry you didn't expect. Step 3. Build a neighbor and family plan because most wellness checks start there. Choose 2 trusted people and tell them your normal schedule and check-in method. If you rest during the day, send a quick text like, "Napping, all okay?" If someone worries, ask them to call you first, not dispatch. This reduces panic calls that can trigger urgent language in the report. Step 4. Create an emergency contact card and keep it near your front door. Include your doctor, a trusted family member, and an attorney's office number. If officers arrive, you can point to the card and ask them to call. This shows you're organized and safe without inviting a search inside. Do it this week because stress makes it hard to remember numbers. Step 5. If an entry happens anyway, document and protect yourself without arguing. Ask for names and badge numbers and say you want everything recorded. After they leave, write down the timeline while it's fresh in your memory. Then consult a licensed attorney because small details change legal outcomes. Don't wait, because delays can make your story sound less consistent later. Let's review what we covered today. A unanimous ruling clarified when police can enter for perceived emergencies. Another unanimous ruling blocked a lawsuit designed to financially crush lawful gun makers. That means your access may stay steadier, while home privacy can face new pressure. You now know how wellness checks and urgent concern calls can spiral fast. This affects millions of households, and most people still haven't heard about it. Here's the final punch you should remember when emotions run high. Your rights matter most when you're stressed, tired, or misunderstood by others. A calm script and secure storage can save you thousands in legal costs. Even a $100-200 consult is painful when it could have been prevented. You don't need to fear every knock, but you must respect what can happen. Prepared people don't panic. They move through the moment with control. If this helped, here's what to do next. Subscribe so you catch the next update before it becomes a problem. Share this with one person you care about because silence costs people money. Comment your state or your situation below because I read and track patterns. Your engagement helps others find this video before they learn the hard way. And if you want more scripts to say at the door, stay close. Important disclaimer, this video is educational only, not legal, financial, tax, or medical advice. Every situation differs, and laws and policies vary widely by state and locality. Consult licensed professionals, including attorneys, CPAs, or medical providers, before acting. What works for one person may fail for another under different facts. Use this information responsibly, stay calm, and protect your rights the smart way.